All right, Raven. Good evening and welcome to the June 1st, 2023 Parks and Recreation Commission regular video meeting. I am Jody McCarthy, the Parks and Recreation Commission Chair. Tonight's Parks and Recreation Commission meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this broadcast is being recorded and will be broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this evening. City staff and guests are participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members are listening to the meeting by telephone or via the internet. Additionally, the city has opened up the community center to provide public space for viewing and participating in the meeting. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Commissioners, please turn on your microphones. Will the city staff please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Chair McCarthy.
Present.
Vice Chair Struck.
Here.
Commissioner Cohen.
Here.
Commissioner Burstein.
Here.
Commissioner Markson.
Here.
Commissioner Westberg.
Here.
Commissioner Hay.
Here.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. City staff, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wishes to address the commission?
Yes, Chair, we have 4 public appearances.
Okay, thank you. Individuals wishing to speak live during the appearances portion of our meeting may do so by telephone, via Zoom, or in person at Mercer Island Community and Event Center. Provided, however, they registered their desire to speak with the city admin staff by 4 p.m. today. Our city admin staff will call on you by name or telephone number when it is your turn to speak. This is the opportunity for anyone to speak to the Parks and Recreation Commission. All remarks will be addressed to the commission as a whole and not to individual commission or staff members. If any person makes personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who becomes boisterous, threatening, or personally abusive while addressing the commission, I will request that that person leave the meeting. When it is your turn to address the commission, be sure to speak audibly and state your name for the record. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. I will provide you with a 10-second when your time is about to expire. City staff, can we have our first speaker?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will be promoting Nancy Morris to panelist.
Thank you. Nancy, can you hear me?
Unmute. Yes, I can hear you. Can
All
you?
right. We can hear you.
Okay. For some reason, the video is not working, so I'll just speak. Good afternoon, or I don't know if it's evening yet this time of year. My name is Nancy Hyatt Morse, and I live directly across the street from Island Crest Park along 84th. We, the neighbors, appreciate the newly installed crosswalk on 84th, as well as the painted bump outs and trimmed vegetation. All of these improvements increase the visibility of Island Crest Park trailheads for the drivers on 84th, with the hope of slowing them down. It's definitely a step in the right direction, and let's hope these improvements help. Now it's time to really focus on the safety precautions needed inside this very well-used park, especially when it comes to bikers. We'd like a seat at the table to keep everyone safe in this very special shared space. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I will be transferring over Danielle Lasky to panelist as number 2. Danielle, you're moving over now.
Hello.
Danielle.
Hi, thank you. Yes, so I would like to follow up what Nancy said. I am also a neighbor of Island Crest Park. I live on 57th Street, and I also have two young children, aged 4 and 10 months. We use the Island Crest Park as well as the Dragon Playground, where the bike path or the bike park is going to go on a regular, almost daily basis. We do appreciate, as Nancy mentioned, the safety measures that were in place along 84th Street, but we are also concerned about the visibility and the safety of having bikes and pedestrians going through Island Crest Park. I was in the park just 2 days ago, and there were some trails that there's only about 18 inches across. At certain points, it's not even wide enough to have two individuals walking abreast, let alone have a bike safely passing past a pedestrian. As well, a lot of the trails, especially in the summer when all the greenery is around, have blind turns. If you have a little one walking up ahead of you, there's the concern that bikers, especially these young bikers and learning bikers who are coming off of the bike trail and the bike park, that they won't necessarily be able to see any incoming pedestrians. And so while we are excited and think that the bike park is a great idea and the location inside of Dragon or Dean's Children's Playground is a great spot, just want to make sure that these safety considerations are taken into account for the rest of Island Park. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, I'm now promoting panelist Karen Grove to the group.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time this evening to listen to the community on the topic of the topic that we're coming to you on, which is the Island Crest Park Trails. And I echo what many other people have said, which is it's great to see the outreach that's been occurring. It's great to see that there have now been safety improvements in the street of 84th Avenue Southeast. But the reason that I have come and spoken to you before, and I'm speaking to you again this evening, is I remain really concerned about the trail safety in Island Crest Park. And I think it's really important that the city, including the Parks Commission, be intentional if you're adding a very desirable feature like a bike park, which is good. I have no concern about a bike skills area, but there needs to be an intentionality about what it means for the adjacent park. And I've said this before, but again, I think you did a good job of considering intentionally the adjacency with the Dragon Park and fencing that off. And I think that was really important. And I would really like you guys to hang in there and do the same work for the Island Crest Park. And I want to publicly acknowledge with appreciation that I think Craig Reynolds has been able to ask folks to see this bigger picture. And I appreciate that leadership, and including, even if there's not, when the park staff says we don't have specific budget for safety on the 84th Avenue Southeast or on the parks trails, I think Craig has been able to say, well, I believe his vote on a council was for that, and I think that has mattered. So thank you. I do think all of you could also have influence on this, and I really urge you to keep there, stick with it, and help us out intentionally with preserving Island Crest Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Chair, last is Jacob Lasky.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for giving me time. So I just wanted to sort of reiterate some of the other concerns my neighbors have, my wife has. I am a lover of Island Crest Park. Our park serves as a sanctuary for children, dog walkers, joggers, nature enthusiasts, providing a safe and tranquil corridors for all to enjoy. Our park is unique. It has narrow paths with high foliage, blind corners, and this contributes to its charm, but also it is also contributes to it being an environment that is safe and friendly for our youngest community members on their routes to and from school. The paths through Island Crest are integral to the daily journeys of many children to their elementary school on Island Crest. I've recently become aware of the proposal to develop the mountain biking course within the park, and I understand the desire to enhance the recreational options in our community. I'm deeply concerned about the potential ramifications of this development. Mountain biking is a high-speed, high-risk endeavor. The influx of mountain bikers could create a potential hazard, especially given the park's existing trails, which were not designed to accommodate such activities. I worry that the park's current patrons, our children, dog walkers, joggers, could be at risk. The narrow paths and blind corners that make Island Crest so unique may also be make it particularly ill-suited for a sport like mountain biking. I urge the commissioners to conduct a comprehensive environmental and social impact study before proceeding with any of the development plans. Let us consider the potential risks thoroughly and explore other potential locations where a mountain biking course could be safely implemented. If the development does go ahead, I ask that we consider strict regulations around where biking is allowed, coupled with effective signage to warn park users of potential biking areas. Our children's safety must be paramount. I understand that we all want to make Mercer Island a more exciting place to live, and I share that sentiment. But let us remember to balance the pursuit of new amenities with preserving the existing charms and safety of our community. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to engaging in future productive conversations about Island Crest Park and finding solutions that respects and protects the interests of all of our residents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That was our last public comment, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we will move on to our first item of business. The first item on the agenda is the department report and update, and we welcome Recreation Manager Ryan Daly.
Thank you, Chair McCarthy. I will be sharing my screen here briefly. We're also joined by City Manager Jesse Bond, who will be picking up toward the end of this presentation to give some updates on some of our park planning projects. Please let me know as soon as this pops up on your screen.
It is shared.
Perfect. We are off to a great start. And the first thing we're going to talk about is summer celebration. Gosh, it does feel like summer already. We are in the process of planning this event. We're sort of in the dotting the I's and crossing the T's phase. So we're pretty well prepared. We're still working on obtaining additional sponsorships, but I do want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors that have stepped up thus far. Mercer Island Martial Arts, the Mercer Apartment Homes, Bell Harbor, who's a new sponsor this year, as well as the Mercer Island Community Fund and Jake Jacobson, who are sponsoring Summer Celebration this year. And as I mentioned, there are additional opportunities available at the link listed there below. You can fill out the packet, and Katie Herzog, our recreation supervisor, will be getting back. But the date is July 15th. The format will look very similar to what it was last year, with one huge addition, and that's the community parade. Thank you to Island Books, John L. Scott, and Island Treats for helping city staff organize this parade this year. And we had a great meeting this morning. I think the staff team is extremely excited to get back involved and engage with the community through this event. So the link there at the bottom has additional information, and we look forward to seeing you July 15th. Mercer Island Medallion Engagement Opportunities. If you recall, this is the artistic project down at the Luther Burbank boiler building down here next to the water. The city is engaged with Marcia Rollinger, who is creating this public artwork. She'll be developing 12 individual bronze pieces, which will be inlaid into that plaza pavement down by the boiler building. And we encourage the public to participate in this process. And we'll have a Let's Talk page open if you click on the link or go to the link there below, as well as a number of community events to solicit that public participation. And that'll take place at the Mercer Island Farmers Market on June 25th, at Summer Celebration on the 15th, as I mentioned, and then also at Mostly Music in the Park on August 10th. So please check that out and provide it engagement and participation as you see fit. Whoa, June is a busy month for us. It kind of snuck up on us, but here we are. We have a number of upcoming events. One starting tomorrow, June 2nd, is the First Friday Art Walk. We have a number of venues that are collaborating to put this on. That's Susanna Czar, Aljoya, Barrels, Coldwell Baker Bain, Myval, Cascade Frames, Clark & Clark, Relogics, Sotheby's International Realty. They're all collaborating on this. It's in Town Center from 4 to 8 p.m. tomorrow. So please take part in that. Pride in the Park is an event that we're collaborating with Pride Plus on. That will take place on June 17th at Mercerdale Park from 3 to 6 o'clock. A lot of fun with games, treats, music, you name it. It'll be a really fun and engaging opportunity for everyone. Then just 2 days later, we will be hosting the Juneteenth celebration with music and activities, and we've collaborated with the Mercer Island High School Black Student Union. They've done a ton of work putting this together. It'll happen from 12 to 4 at Mercerdale Park as well on the 19th. And then we have a senior program coming up. June 27th is our senior lunch and conversation. You'll recall we did one of these last year. We had an Elvis impersonator and whatnot, well attended. This one is the British invasion, and John Jensen will be discussing the British rock invasion of the 1960s. It'll be a ton of fun. I encourage the commission to come by, check it out. It's a great opportunity for us to engage with that senior age population. There is a pre-registration required because there's lunch being provided. It's also a free event, which is sponsored by Bell Harbor. Another event, or a couple, I should say, we have another event tomorrow. I know I was well aware of this. I don't know if you were. Tomorrow is National Donut Day. So swing by the community center, grab a cup of coffee, grab a donut. Great way to start your day from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. This is an ongoing activity that we host for community coffee. Come by, check out the community center. It's a great opportunity to engage again with our senior population. On Friday, June 9th, we're hosting a LGBTQI plus Pride recognition to celebrate that at the community center as well. So there will be treats and snacks and all kinds of things at the community center on that date as well. Mercer Island Farmers Market. It is that season starting this weekend. The farmers market kicks off on Sunday. There will be live music, fresh produce, probably tons of people. It's a great kickoff to summer. We enjoy partnering with them. We oftentimes have city booths that are associated with the market as well. And that takes place on Southeast 32nd Street, just north of Mercerdale Park. And the market runs on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Through the month of September. And there is additional info located on the website listed below. And the Riley Cove dedication. Many of you received the invite for this dedication of Riley Cove. It's that small bay which is located off of Lincoln Landing. Houston Riley was a lifelong resident of Mercer Island. He served in the U.S. Army, was a veteran of the 1st Infantry Division. Riley was the subject of Robert Capa's famous wartime photo that's shown there on the right of the landing on D-Day at Omaha Beach. After returning home, he remained an active member of the VFW post and also served as a board member for the Mercer Island Historical Society. So that dedication takes place at Lincoln Landing on June 6th, 4 p.m. The reception will follow at the VFW Hall immediately following that dedication. Parking can be a challenge here. So please make sure that we're parking at the VFW Hall or at the Lid Park and walking along the trail to access the park site there at Lincoln Landing. There is limited ADA space available at the park site, so we're reserving that for those who will need that access. Park maintenance has been busy. They have completed some landscape installations on the east side of 80th Avenue, just adjacent from the Sound Transit Station. They've completed a first round of weeding for the year at Island Crestway. As you can imagine, my yard is the same way. The first is one of many, so they will remain and continue to address those weeds as they pop up. New park sign was installed at Lincoln Landing and an interpretive sign recognizing Riley Cove as well. And play chips. I love these stats, 145 cubic yards installed across 9 parks. That's a lot of wood chips if you're tracking that. So excellent job by our park maintenance team, who continues to do great works. They've planted a number of trees in different parks and right-of-way areas. They're completing the landscape construction on the North Mercer Way near the park and ride and the roundabout. This is an area that is being installed by Sound Transit, but our parks maintenance team takes on the management and the maintenance of that area ongoing. And then we have a number of volunteer events that I won't run through all of them, but please check out that calendar listed at the link below for opportunities to participate. And I will highlight with this, we are restarting the letterboxing program. That was something that's been on hold for probably about 4 or 5 years at this point. So that'll be something that's restarting in a very similar format to before. And so I'll be providing additional updates on ways you can take part in that program as well. And that kicks off on the 3rd, that's Saturday. The Mercer Island Pea Patch. Many of us didn't know that there was a pea patch. I knew, but many people haven't ventured behind Kite Hill, which is where it's located. From what I can tell, it's been around since the mid-90s. This location hosts about 48 active participants at this time, many of which have been in this program for a very long duration, and they grow. If you get a chance, please go back there and check it out, especially this time of year when everything is literally just springing up. You're starting to see a lot of colors up there in the plants and the vegetables that are being grown by our community members in those areas. This is a program that does or has in the past had a fairly extensive wait list. We've been actively managing this now as staff to create additional plots to start getting some of those in from the wait list. We do have a set of rules and responsibilities for all gardeners. These were created in collaboration with existing gardeners, many of which, as I mentioned, have been in the program for a period of time. Our staff is working really closely with all of the gardeners to make sure that we're all complying with those rules and regulations, many of which, quite frankly, are utilized to address safety and to maintain access throughout those different spaces. One thing to note, and now that we have a Parks and Recreation Commission and we have an opportunity, we'll be asking the Parks and Recreation Commission to weigh in and provide some input on the guidelines as we move forward. And I anticipate this to come forward probably sometime toward the end of this year after this gardening season, to seek input from the commission on what that use of space should be and how it should be utilized as we move forward. So I'm happy to, I love going up to this location. So if any of the park commissioners would like to take a tour, or anyone else, I'm happy to guide that tour up around the back of Kite Hill. And there is a website listed below that I encourage all to take a look at, give some good ideas on what the responsibility of the gardeners are, as well as what the process is to access the garden. Project updates. We've got a few of these coming now. The Luther Burbank Park Sport Court renovations. These are often moving. We're currently in the process of reviewing several potential layout concepts that have been presented to us by the consultant working on this. We are hoping to finalize that design later in June, with construction tentatively planned for later this summer and probably early fall. So more to come. We're also going to be working with, and right now I can actually hear pickleballs going off behind me here at the park. Once we start that construction process, we'll be working with the pickleball groups on alternative site for the period of construction, so that we don't lose out on a single day of the beautiful weather we have here during that period of time. So more to come there. With that, I will pass it off to City Manager Bond to go from here.
All right. Good evening. It's good to be back with the Parks and Rec Commission. As you know, we have a number of staff, unfortunately, out on leave. So I am pinch hitting for Jason Kittner, and Ryan is patiently putting up with me. I have a handful of project updates to run through. I think the big update, it's not really a big update, it's just that we're working behind the scenes right now on the bike skills area. We're at the phase where we're finishing our design drawings and also working through the permit process. We are working with the American Ramp Company, who will be coming out this summer. You'll see stakes out at Island Crest Park where the bike course will be set. We have ongoing trail counts happening at Island Crest Park. I know we had some folks commenting earlier, wanting to make sure we have not lost sight of the importance of trail safety. That continues to be top of mind as we work through the planning and head into construction. By the way, we fully anticipate being under construction at the end of the summer, possibly early fall. There's a lot of steps that have to happen between now and then. And finally, wanted to call out the safety improvements on 84th Avenue Southeast. You can see the photos there. 3 painted bump outs and 1 painted crosswalk were installed on 84th. And this work actually does not happen through the Parks Department. It is work that is performed through our Public Works and Transportation team. In fact, all around the island, you've noticed many of our crosswalks are getting refreshed and painted. It's that time of year when we do that work. Next slide, please. I thought this meeting would be a good meeting to assign all of you some homework. It's summer. It's a great time to get out into the parks. And with that in mind, a preview of really some significant planning work that will be on your agendas in 2024. We are in the process of negotiating a contract with a consultant to begin the joint Groveland and Clark Beach master plan. We're taking those parks together under one master planning process. If you haven't been through a master plan yet, I don't think the commission actually has. I can't remember. Aubrey Davis was right as the commission was being formed. This is the document that sets the vision for the future of the park. And we definitely have some aging infrastructure, significantly aging infrastructure at these 2 shoreline beach properties. And so what will be happening in 2023? Our consultants will be working mostly behind the scenes, doing all the site assessment work. It's pretty complicated. We need them to get out. We need them to evaluate the docks. Most of this work is happening on the shorelines. And then as we turn the corner into 2024, we will start our public engagement process. This commission will be heavily involved. You can anticipate about 4 meetings where we'll be talking about the Groveland and Clark master plans. You can anticipate public meetings and other engagement opportunities. So the homework assignment is we're really, on the ground floor of getting ready to start this master planning work. And I would just really encourage you to put both of these parks on your list for regular visits this summer and the fall. As commissioners, you represent the community. I think the more you can be out at these facilities and see how they operate at different times of day, evening, weekend, hey, even pop in at Groveland on a Seafair weekend if you can find parking. But seriously, it's a really good time to go to these parks, knowing that you're going to be really heavily engaged and in the thick of helping us set the long-term vision for these 2 properties in 2024. So you'll have a slide on these master plans. We'll be updating you as the work progresses, but I thought it would be a good time to mention that we're getting underway. And next slide. The other master plan that's on deck is the Mercerdale Park. And I put the bullets kind of in a different order here. What I want you to be aware of is we have a sewer line, I think we've shared this previously, that roughly runs north to south right through the center of Mercerdale Park. If you're out at the park and you stand in the middle of the grass, there's kind of a depression there. And in the winter, that's the part of the park that gets really soggy. That's where the sewer line is. So that sewer line is planned to be replaced and basically upsized. We had originally planned to do what's called pipe bursting, where we go through the pipe and we expand it through a fancy technology. We learned about 6 months ago that we're not going to be able to do that. So the pipe will have to be dug up and fully replaced. So I'm telling you all this. We've known about this for a while. This is a really important sewer capacity project for the community. And unfortunately, that pipe just goes right through the middle of the park. So we're looking out, it's probably, let's call it 18 to 24 months out. Not totally sure on that, but the park will need to be closed. So we'll be doing major construction on Mercerdale Park. The dates are to be determined. We'll, of course, try to align the work so that we're not impacting our busy summer season. But because we have to go and trench right through the middle of the park and do this major sewer work, this presents a really good opportunity for us to take a look at Mercerdale and other things that also need to be repaired. For example, if you walk this park, you'll know that the loop path has buckling pavement everywhere and a lot of really extensive root intrusion. So that would be something that is on my list to be replaced and modernized and to meet ADA standards when we're closed for the sewer pipe repair. We don't have an updated master plan for Mercerdale Park. And so we decided it would be really the best approach would be to do a master plan to just reevaluate the whole park all at once, set the vision for the park, and identify any future improvements we need to make. So that work, we're also negotiating with our consultant on the contract for that. Much of what will happen in 2023 is behind the scenes. It's all the assessment work, it's all the technical things like geotech work, lots of surveying so that we can have a really robust and productive master plan. Similar comment to the other park properties, I encourage you to get out and visit Mercerdale as much as you can over the summer and the fall. We'll be asking the Park Commission to steward this master plan. I'm anticipating at least 4 touches with the Commission over the course of 2024, and certainly invite you to participate in public meetings and things like that as well. This master plan, don't worry, we're not going to dump all this right on top of you. The 2 master plans will be staggered. We'd like to finish this one first because we'll be rolling right into a phase 1 improvement project that will line up with that sewer pipe replacement. So I wanted to tell you about the sewer pipe replacement because Mercerdale Park tends to attract a lot of attention. And when we want to make changes, you'll likely hear like, don't do anything. But we do have to do something. We have to replace the sewer pipe. And so it is a good time to look at other improvements we might want to make. Okay, I've said enough on both of those master plans. Those are coming soon. Great time of year to get out and visit your parks. Next slide, please. My favorite topic, not really. City Hall remains closed. I think Ryan's shared with you previously, and you've probably seen press releases from the city. We have asbestos, and we have asbestos confirmed in a location of our basement. Unfortunately, we also have confirmed asbestos in our HVAC system, like actually inside the ducts and in a couple of air handling units. And so that is a problem. We are still, unfortunately, testing and trying to determine the limits. If you've had to do something like this in your home, you know, our first mission is to make sure we know where it is, and then we can begin contemplating removal. The community and the staff and our customers are aware that City Hall will be closed at least through the summer because of the significance of the work. the not great news on City Hall is that the portion of the HVAC system that is impacted cannot be cleaned. The system has to be fully removed and replaced. And so obviously there's a much larger conversation that will be happening with the city council as we really get our arms around the problem and what the abatement and repair scenarios look like. I want to leave you with this though. There are silver linings when these things happen. The police department is housed right now temporarily at the community center. So there's lots of opportunities for our police to work with our recreation team and lots of engagement with the community at that facility. We are also looking at building out a full broadcast system at the community center. So you may watch our council meetings from time to time. Those are Zoom meetings, plus we have a whole full broadcast system that allows us to broadcast to Channel 21 and to YouTube. City Hall has not been the most reliable facility for us due to its age. We've had to go back to Zoom a couple times. So we are now looking at basically building those capabilities out at the community center in probably one room and then an enhanced type of Zoom facility in one of the small meeting rooms. So I'm sharing this with you because as a Parks Commission, this is a really great opportunity. It's an investment that will support not only our city meeting needs, but also will be really attractive for rental groups. And I know we have rental groups all the time asking for this type of enhanced technology. So we are working on that. That's one impact to the Parks and Recreation division that will maybe be a possible outcome of this. So more to come. I will probably be sharing more with the community and the council in July on the City Hall closure. So with that, I believe that was our last slide. And thank you for letting us, that was a deep dive on a lot of things going on.
Wow.
Thank you for that, Ryan and Jesse. I have a question. So with Mercer Dale Park, does that mean a thrift store and the train park will also be closed during that time? Or if they're on the side, would that?
That is a good question. The thrift shop will not close. And I think we would really work to keep aspects of Mercer Dale Park open. You know, I think everybody, you know, that famous depression I'm talking about in the grass. So the limits of that sewer pipe, I think we could, you know, probably just close the park and keep the playground and some of the exterior facilities open. But I anticipate the trail will be closed. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing my hand a little bit here, but that trail needs to be fully replaced, and we need to pull it all out and put it back in with proper construction that will prevent the root intrusion that's happening now. So that would be my, you know, one thing that absolutely has to happen in that phase one project. But we would work to keep that playground open for sure.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. The next item of regular business is to review and consider approving the minutes from the May 4th, 2023 meeting. Commissioners, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 4th, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burstein and a second by Commissioner Hay. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we vote? All right, I see no hands up. Commissioners, please turn on your microphones. Will the city staff please conduct a roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Markson?
Agree. Or aye.
Commissioner Burstein?
Aye.
Vice Chair Struck?
Aye.
Commissioner Hay?
Aye.
Commissioner Westberg?
Aye.
Chair McCarthy?
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen?
Aye.
Thank you,
All
Chair.
right. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. Thank you. All right. The third item is a review of criteria for the draft City Council Park Area Naming Policy. And we welcome back Jesse Bond, City Manager, Cassidy Berlin, Management Analyst, and again, Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair McCarthy. Again, I'm actually going to hand this off to Cassidy Berlin, who's our management analyst and has been working really closely with the Recreation Division actually over the last maybe 2 or 3 months on a number of different projects. So we're excited to have her as well as City Manager Bond supporting the division right now. So I'm going to move forward and try to share my screen and go 2 for 2 here. Come on.
You're good.
All right, Cassidy, I will have you take it away.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. I'll start this presentation on the review of criteria for the draft City Council Park Area Naming Policy. I'll start by explaining the policy background to cover why this policy is being created and how it was drafted. Then I'll go through the 2 different types of criteria the Commission is being asked to provide input on tonight. After that, I'll hand it back to Ryan and Jesse, who will walk through some naming examples and kick off the discussion. So to start, naming policies are a common municipal tool that guide how publicly enjoyed areas are named. The city doesn't have a naming policy, which risks an inconsistent approach to the selection of park area names. The draft of this policy was based on the structure and criteria of other municipal naming policies in the region. A couple of recent naming examples made by council action include the Kirk Robinson Skate Park and Aubrey Davis, and Ryan is going to end this presentation with a few more park area naming examples. So there are 2 types of criteria in the naming policy that the Commission is being asked to provide input on. The first is naming criteria, and names must derive from at least one of these criteria. The second is a set of disqualifying criteria, and names may not derive from any of the criteria on this list. Here you can see the different naming criteria, and while names have to be derived from at least one of these, a name may fall under several of the items on this list. There are criteria for physical indicators of a park area, like a boundary road or surrounding natural features. There are historic or culturally significant criteria. There are a set of criteria relating to naming park areas after individuals. And then there are criteria that are descriptive, that derive from the city's identity, names that lend dignity, and names that represent enduring values. Something I'll note is that not all municipalities with a naming policy choose to include a set of disqualifying criteria. Staff determined that there are merits to having this section in this draft policy. So this section bans the use of names too similar to existing park areas, names of public officials who currently hold office or staff currently employed by the city, a name that by contemporary community standards is derogatory, offensive, distasteful, or in violation of generally accepted moral standards, and names of other public entities unless the entity contributes significantly to the establishment or maintenance of the park or facility. So with that, I'll pass it back to Ryan.
Great. Thank you, Cassidy. I just wanted to include this slide to share, to kind of pull together a reference of what we're talking about here in naming park facility areas. And so of course, you have the larger scale, which is like an entire park. Then you have maybe the smaller scale, which is an actual asset or amenity within that. And so an example of that would be the skate park, as we referenced before, which was named for Kirk Robinson. You also have rooms in the community center. You have the community center itself that could fall within these naming policies. You also have athletic facility areas like tennis courts, baseball fields, all of those types of amenities that you can think of. You also have right-of-way areas, and that picture on the bottom right corner is of Mercerdale Park, and that's the sidewalk plaza area just outside, and that's an area we actually use for a few different recreational activities, like the menorah lighting that takes place there. We actually utilize that plaza opportunity to host that as the location. So tonight, I just want to inform on the discussion and what we're looking for. Tonight, the city manager is requesting feedback from the Parks Commission on the specific naming and disqualifying criteria section of the policy. This input will be used to inform a draft policy for council consideration Early next year is our anticipated date. What we won't be discussing are the procedures. We are holding these back because there are so many different opportunities, I should say, or levels of naming something, that this would be a process that would be developed and informed on by city council and the city manager as we would move forward with reviewing that potential naming opportunity. So with that, I will stop sharing. And I will ask Jessie if she would like, or City Manager Bond, sorry, Jessie.
Whatever you want, Ryan. It's all
There
good.
we go. And allow you to chime in here and share any additional information that you might think would be helpful to this discussion.
Sure. Thank you again for having me this evening. As a reminder, this is a policy that will be approved by the City Council. We're here tonight kind of in the first phase of discussion, and I will just, toss it out. This is a what do you think about the criteria we drafted kind of conversation. This will likely come back to you either in July or September for a follow-up. It's important to note that the authority to name properties and assets rests solely with the City Council. Procedures for a policy like this really don't work because, as Ryan just noted, there's a whole variety of circumstances that may present themselves. For example, the City Council decided to name the skate park Kirk Robinson Skate Park very recently. They did that on their own authority. There was not a public process. They did take action at a council meeting. So that's one example. Inkstrom Open Space is another interesting example, and I didn't have time to go back and research all the records thoroughly, but Inkstrom was acquired over a number of years in a series of transactions, and within that structure, the family name was agreed to be added. So sometimes when we're doing property acquisitions or property donations, that will come with a naming request. Aubrey Davis Park is, I think, the last one that I can recall that was before my time, where basically the Lid Park was renamed after a former council member and mayor. So the council will retain a lot of authority and flexibility to determine when something will be named, and the criteria will help guide that decision making. The last thing I will say is that oftentimes there will potentially be some overlap here with your future sponsorship policy and even a donation policy. Sometimes, like if we received a large sum of money, for example, to replace a playground, and I don't know, let's say it came from Riot Games, they might request a naming opportunity. So lots of variety in how we come to needing to name something, but we did want to take a closer look at the criteria. One final point, and then I will turn the floor back to you. One of the reasons this came up is because we've had a couple community members reach out with a desire to change the name of a property. So the place we needed to start was to first have the criteria in place, but the decision to change the name or to even entertain that topic would also rest with the City Council. The policy does not prescribe a procedure or a petition or anything like that to do that. That would be at the sole discretion of the City Council whether or not they wanted to take that up. All right. So with that, Chair McCarthy, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you. Who wants to start us off? Oh, Commissioner Cohen. You're on mute.
Thank you, Don Cohen. Sorry. I emailed this question to Ryan, and that is on the criteria on the positive side. I was interested in the difference between what was E and F in the material sent out. One of them had to do with living or deceased individual who had made a significant contribution or something, words to that effect. And then the next one is living or deceased at least 3 years who had made a big contribution to parks. And I didn't understand what the rationale behind that was, the distinction. obviously there might be overlap, but I didn't understand what the 3-year requirement, where that came from, and why it was different.
Cassidy, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can start. Thank you for the question, Commissioner Cohen. So I'll go back to the way that this policy was assembled. I looked at various examples from other regional naming policies that cities have, and I pulled together all of their structures and the criteria that they had. So the criteria that you see on the current draft policy are criteria from all over the place, from a bunch of different cities' naming policies. And from there, staff took a couple of criteria off the list to narrow it down. So that's where this list came from. I believe the intent of having a stipulation that an individual must be deceased at least 3 years before a public area could be named after them was specifically for city leadership to wait a certain amount of time before commemorating their legacy. But I think there's an opportunity to discuss whether or not both naming criteria E and F are helpful on the policy. Ryan or city manager, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Cassidy. I staged this question a little bit for Commissioner Cohen to bring forward, because I thought it was an excellent opportunity for us to have this be a discussion point amongst the commission on what their preference may be. Seeing that the criteria between E and F differs between outstanding public service or community contribution in general, versus being more specific or a contribution to parks specifically. So that was sort of a key differentiating factor that I'm sure many recognize. The at least 3 years was a criteria that was involved in other policies we'd seen and provided a little bit of a duration before moving forward with naming a park facility specifically for that individual.
Chair McCarthy, can I ask a follow-up question or make a follow-up comment, please?
You.
This is Don Cohen. I guess I would ask for some discussion and that staff consider a little further. To me, it's sort of, it doesn't offhand make sense. You got to be dead 3 years if your contribution was for parks, and I just don't get it. I understand why we might want to have a time period for certain kinds of things. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's for almost anything, but I guess I still don't quite understand why it would be for making contributions related to parks that you have to be dead 3 years.
The list was presented, and we probably should have labeled it as such, with some alternatives for you to consider. One of the things that we wrestled with specifically is if it's a park, it's a trail, it's something park related, a park asset, and it's being named after an individual, should that individual have contributed meaningfully to the park system? Or can someone that's just really fantastic and served our community or also an asset be named after them? So I think that's one thing to wrestle down. These can be broken apart. You can take one or the other. Many policies include a timeline to consider, a certain amount of time from when they've passed away before a name can be considered. I will tell you the Kirk Robinson Skate Park, the naming, I believe, gosh, don't quote me on this, occurred within probably a year of his passing. I don't feel strongly about that criteria, Commissioner Cohen. We just wanted to, present it. This is one of those types of policies that we should talk today and sleep on it. And we can do some more research based on the questions you ask today. But those were presented as alternatives. They could be combined, revised. One can be removed entirely.
If I could jump in, Chair McCarthy, real quick. Jesse reminded me of something that was part of the conversation originally, was that what's the right amount of time to wait so that you don't have this initial gut reaction all the time But you give a period of time to evaluate if that's the best move in naming something after someone. The other aspect that differs between E and F is E includes a living individual. F does not. And so there's a little bit of a distinction there that was being made on that duration of time.
Okay, before we go on to a next question, does any other commissioner have any comments about that? Vice Chair Strachan, perfect. All right,
Yes, this is Peter Struck. I would just echo Don's comments that E and F were somewhat confusing. I was trying to figure out the difference, and I think those should be combined in some way. I think there's a couple of different variables there, but I think that you can probably just make one out of rather than having two, or maybe F is a subset of E. And I'll leave it at that. I have some other questions, but I can jump back in. It doesn't matter.
yep, thank you. I've got you in the queue as for when we're ready for that. Commissioner Westberg?
Yeah, I agree with the gist of Don's comments too. It seemed to me like those were somewhat duplicative, and now I'm confused based on Ryan's last comment, because does that mean that only dead people could be park features could only be named after dead people and not living people, because there's a morbidity clause in section F? I think we're splitting hairs too finely there that we don't really need. I always opt for trying to keep things as simple and straightforward as possible. So I agree with Don.
Right, did you have any response to that, Ryan?
Oh, I was calling out the differentiating factors there being outstanding public service overall versus contributions specific to parks. And so what I'm hearing from Commissioner Westberg is that probably doesn't really, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Westberg, in your opinion, that doesn't really matter. They could be combined into a single item.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if somebody has made that big of an impression on the park system, we shouldn't have to wait for them to pass away for 3 years before we acknowledge that. It might be kind of nice for that person to get acknowledged for it and be able to appreciate it. Okay, any other comments on this particular part? Commissioner Burstein.
This is Paul Burstein. The other thing that I would want to consider is trusting the city council to have the right temerity and respect to think through the timing of naming. So if a person had just passed away, I don't think the city council would react that quickly. And I would put my trust in them to think through when the appropriate time is. So I would rather not have any type of limitation and let the city council figure that out.
Thank you. Commissioner Cohen, do you have one last comment about this?
Yes, Commissioner Burstein read my mind, and I don't know whether ultimately, as this policy develops, whether staff would want to actually have something that specifically gave the council the authority, which it has anyway, as Paul said, to consider the appropriateness of timing and so forth. But I agree with him. I'd leave that, because the Kirk Robinson one is a very good example of a relatively rapid one, and but thank you.
All right, moving on to next questions about that, Commissioner or Vice Chair Struck.
Yes, thank you. I just had kind of, looking at the purpose at the very beginning of the policy, the question I had, is there existing naming policies that cover non-park assets that are on the books?
are you speaking to like a building or roads or?
Non-park assets, however you want to define that. I guess the question really is if there's already a naming policy for kind of other city assets, whatever those may be, I would want to take a look at that and say, you know, because there should be some level of consistency between them, I would think.
Yeah.
But maybe there is none. I just don't know.
I don't know off the top of my head. I can't recite the policy regarding like naming roads, but we do have a policies we follow in that regard, which are completely different standard. We'd use, you know, numbers. So we can look that up and get that back to you. Otherwise, I would say we're pretty light in this family
Okay.
of policies.
Okay. And then I think the other thing, kind of very general, I would ask, and I think Director Daly kind of referred to it. I'm just curious, if kind of looking at this policy and the existing park assets that do have names, if we were to kind of apply an overview of that, or overlay of the this naming policy, would all the current names kind of meet the criteria or not? I'm just curious about that. You know, there's a lot of names out there, so I don't expect you to know tonight, but I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, you know, we don't know the history of all the names, unfortunately. Some of these well preceded even the city, so I'm not sure we can answer that question. I'm also not convinced it would be a good use of time to try to answer that question. But is there a policy concern, a reason you're raising that?
Well, I guess I wouldn't want to, can't speak for the city council, but, you know, adopt a policy and then people say, well, wait a minute, you know, this existing park doesn't meet that criteria. What, you know, kind of going to the, should it be replaced or something? I think at least I would want to know that kind of ahead of time, but if it's not possible, that's fine then too.
Yeah, I think we're happy to, you know, consider that. I just would point out we have an extraordinary number of assets and things that are named, and like Mercerdale Park, you know, there's just some of the originations of names is going to require a lot of research. You know, Luther Burbank Park is the park name that has attracted some attention and requests for renaming based on Luther Burbank's history as an individual. So
again, it's just a suggestion. You can do what you want.
Yeah, I think when the council adopts this policy, it will be written such that it doesn't apply retroactively. It applies to decisions going forward.
Oh yeah, I agree. There'll be grandfather clause in there, some de facto. But again, yeah, I think you kind of just want to know that. Well, you know, if you came back and said, well, gee, you know, half of the park's names, you know, today wouldn't meet the criteria, you know, that would kind of give me pause. If there's kind of a one-off, probably not an issue.
Thank you. Commissioner Westberg.
I had a comment on under disqualifying criteria. Letter C, that I think we should add to that a name that by contemporary community standards is socially or culturally inappropriate. It's not quite the same as derogatory. It doesn't have the same force perhaps, but it's an issue that comes up from time to time.
Thank you for that.
And just by way of a parenthetical comment, I don't think we should necessarily close the door to renaming things in the future if, you know, based on that standard, that our cultural norms change or our societal norms change, and because it's happening all over.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Commissioner Hay?
Hi, I just have two comments. The first is just a comment to help this document read a bit easier. So under section 4, where we talk about the duration of the name. We have A, temporary, and B, permanent. And then we have 4BB, which I guess should actually be 4B2. But 4BB looks like it really should just go up in the general policy, because that doesn't have anything to do with temporary or permanent, but rather this is a community engagement paragraph. And I think that would nicely fit up under the general policy. Does that make sense? Because I like this section, it talks about public engagement and that the council may choose to commence a community engagement process. And that seems like it would best fit up under 1.0 general policy. Because that pertains to all of this, right? Not just the duration of the name.
I'm waiting for.
Good suggestion.
Yeah. Perfect. And what was the second comment, Ashley?
Yeah, the second was regarding the renaming. I felt that using the terms of misrepresenting the values or character of the island was very subjective and would be difficult to determine. So it could be simplified to just if this conflicts with some portion of the policy. So the renaming of the park should be avoided unless the current name has been determined to conflict with some portion of this policy.
We can certainly take a look at that. Sorry, I'm juggling a sick kiddo in the background.
I was reading.
That's all. Just a couple of comments to give us, so make it a little bit more broad and to save time trying to debate what the values and character of the island are, especially if those aren't well defined somewhere. It could make things a lot easier just to say it conflicts with this section of the policy.
Thank you. Commissioner Markson.
Thank you, this is Commissioner Markson. I think the one comment I had, and it's definitely not in the policy, maybe it's more of a question. So it seems, I think the problem or the thing I'm missing is like maybe the overall goal or objective of having naming in general, which would help me maybe think about a little more clearly about the criteria. Like I don't necessarily have a problem with the criteria, but for example, if the goal of allowing naming is to recognize contributions, something to that effect, it would help me maybe picture the criteria we'd want to put on it. I don't know if that makes sense, but as of right now, the criteria seem logical. I totally agree with the either add 3 years or don't add 3 years to everything, but maybe in the future, if we could just say what we're picturing for our community as our goals. Like
Commissioner Markson, I can maybe attempt some framing, although it will still be relatively loose. Our goal is if we have a property, an asset, actually like a real estate piece of property, that it generally has a name. I do not believe our goal is to name all of our park assets after people. We have not done that as a city. There are entities, however, that do that. The Lake Washington School District, the way they name their elementary schools is after historic figures, and that is their policy. So our approach has, as you can tell by the names of our parks and trails and things, has been much more broad. So at a minimum, when we acquire an asset, we desire it to have some sort of a name, and this will help us get there. It does not have to be a person. Now, Ryan, if left to his devices, will name everything. So that's also not necessary. You know, the skate park at Mercerdale Park was named in tribute in honor of a long-term, very high contributing community member. But should we have another skate park in another part of the city, doesn't mean it would necessarily have a name. So it's a pretty open-ended answer, but we do desire a real estate property that is used for recreation purposes to be identifiable by a name beyond just the address.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll just say one thing that I kind of is running through my mind. I don't have a very clear comment, which is why I'm hesitating, but that in this one, along with the donation of park, you know, like benches and such, where we had a naming discussion around plaques. I guess my fear, it may be unfounded, is that we end up with so much names being scattered throughout the parks and park facilities that it just maybe becomes some sort of weird badge of honor. I don't know. Like I said, it may be unfounded, and it's probably beyond the criteria conversation we're having here, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about as we're talking.
One of the reasons the use of the word temporary is in this policy, and this will, you know, tie nicely into the future sponsorship policy that we really have to develop, is to address those circumstances where, let's hypothetically say we have a business that comes to us and says we want to, you know, provide $10,000 a year for the next 5 years for naming rights of the picnic shelter. That would be both a sponsorship, that would have sponsorship policy implications and also potentially naming policy implications. So we've left that open. But again, that type of arrangement where we're attaching a name to something that is stewarded by the city, you know, owned by the taxpayers, would have to come under the authority of the council. So there's really some open-endedness to this, and we recognize that, but we also feel it's important to be considerate of when and how things are named. That doesn't mean they'll always be named, though, to your point.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds.
I just want to raise one issue for consideration that I'm not sure I have an opinion on, but I think you ought to consider it, which is the policy with regards to naming after living people. I can see two scenarios, and there are probably more, where that might be problematic. One is somebody who is not currently an employee or an office holder that later becomes an employee or decides to run for office. It could be problematic and be viewed as, gee, I've got a park named after me, you should vote for me. Secondly, is the possibility that living people sometimes do heinous things. And if they do such a heinous thing after the facility's been named after them, we can be left in an embarrassing spot, which maybe we're saved from by going through a renaming policy, but that could be problematic and not sufficiently timely. So I just think it's an issue worth discussing.
It's a great point. I will mention Ferroglia Fields, which are the athletic fields at Aubrey Davis Park up on the lid. Those were named after former Parks and Recreation Director Gary Ferroglia, who's very much alive and well. So we have a history of having done that previously. I do see the point that concern is valid. That's one of the reasons some entities move away from naming assets after people altogether.
And I think for that reason, for example, if I'm not mistaken, the post office will never put a living person on a stamp, for example. It has to be a deceased person. And I also would be the first to admit, if somebody said, I'm going to give you $100 million to buy the south end of Mercer Island and turn it into a park, but only if you name it after me, it would be hard to turn that down. So I don't know, just food for thought.
Thank you. Last comments from Vice Chair Struck.
Yes, thank you. Just on under disqualifying criteria, excuse me. A, names too similar to existing names of current park areas. I thought about maybe we should expand that to include kind of, or neighboring, parks, outside, because I think of like in Bellevue, there's Mercer Slough. So you wouldn't want to, I don't think you would, want to name a wetlands areas like Mercer Slough, for example. So it's not a kind of a big deal, but I just think you might want to expand your area that you think about a little further than just kind of current park names within the city. Thank you.
That's a good point. All right, I think that was a good discussion. We're going to move on to the fourth item is the 2022 Recreation Division Annual Report. And guess what? We are welcoming back Recreation Manager Ryan Daly, as well as Recreation Supervisor Katie Herzog and Recreation Facilities Supervisor Alex Lee.
We are moving so quickly. I was barely ready to get that up there, and my screen has frozen there. Let me know as soon as you see this pop up.
We are not seeing anything yet.
I'm sorry, Chair McCarthy, I'm shifting way too many open windows around here. I knew it was too.
In light of our previous discussion, can I propose we name this the Ryan Daily Report?
Oh, I will talk to City Manager Bond and see if I can get that inserted into the policy. I don't know. I can see some concern on Councilmember Reynolds' face, though. This group is way too much fun. Let's see, come on. Showing up yet?
Yes, it's
All
here.
right, we're off and running. Thank you, Parks and Recreation Commission, Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager, again, providing the Recreation Division / Ryan Daly Division Report, I guess we're now calling it. As you know, we've been working on this for over the last 6 months, actually. We ended 2022 with a brief report to the Parks and Recreation Commission on some outcomes from 2022. This will not be reliving that report, but actually highlighting the really good outcomes that we had in 2022. I submitted a written report to the commission that's included in the packet that is fairly detailed. This report will not duplicate that in any way. We'll be calling out really the great things that we did throughout the year. And you'll recall that through the Recreation Reset strategy, the division committed to coming back to the commission annually to report on how we're doing. As you'll recall, that reset was a complete reset, and we started everything new. Took a different approach, a new approach to how we were evaluating the success of the department, as well as how we were implementing the different services. So this report will reflect on that a bit, and we're happy to take any questions that you might have as we move forward. If the slides advance, come on, there we go. So through this report, I'm going to talk a little about who is the Recreation Division, what we did in 2022, and give a brief preview of 2023. So who are we? This is a team of 18 full-time and part-time staff who are committed to striving to deliver life-improving recreation services on Mercer Island. We focus on creating access and opportunities for all of the community members. And we take a lot of pride in this aspect of connecting community members and neighborhoods all together. And we do that through a variety of programs and events and services that we support. And we support our community organizations. A big outcome of the Recreation Reset strategy was how we were going to work with different community groups and organizations to further the mission of recreation and to enhance those opportunities for our community members. And the really important thing that I think is really at the heart of this division is our consistency and want to improve. We really focus on that. We talk about it at length every day about what can we do better. And we offer some really, really great services already, but we're really focused on how can we offer that one extra thing? How can we do the next thing better? How can we communicate more effectively so that more of our Mercer Island community has the opportunity to take part in different recreation programs, and making sure that those recreation programs are reflective of their wants and needs. The division is laid out here in this organizational chart. I report to the city manager currently, but the chief of operations, Jason Kittner, oversees our division as part of the public works umbrella. And you can see how that's laid out here. This presentation, I will be informing on 3 really key areas, and that's the administrative functional area, the program and event area, and then also the community center. So those are really the 3 key buckets that we fall into. I will note though, however, this presentation will look different next year. Early in 2023, we have made some adjustments to our staffing structure, which I think was really important. As I mentioned, that consistent improvement, that's really where we focused, and we found some opportunities to expand services by moving some of those puzzle pieces around. So to talk about the administrative functional area, this includes myself and a recreation coordinator in 2022. As I mentioned, we've moved some things around, but we were really focused on providing a variety of administrative functions. And those included developing the division budget, prioritizing resources, developing those different policies that were coming forward to you over 2022, and then establishing and reviewing the department's work plan, as well as supporting the citywide emergency operation functions, which I currently continue to do. Just to call out a few of the key outcomes, we developed the 2021 report, division report. That was a huge step for this department or this division when we developed that, because that wasn't something we were doing in the past. And in that effort of providing transparency and a real outcome-based focus, that was important for us to be able to deliver to the commission as well as to the public as a whole. We've also coordinated and implemented the Civic Optimized software. I spoke about this at the last meeting when we were talking about some of those enhancements we've seen through the community center and how people can access rental booking information and submit different requests for permits and whatnot. We also completely revamped the division fees and altered our processes on facility use and booking. This really provided the opportunity for the community to see in one location what those division fees were. You'll note that those were all included within the overall city rates or city fee structure. So those are very viewable and available. And then, as I mentioned, with the facility use and booking procedures, we're utilizing software. We're focused on the online presence that we have to continue to create that ease of access for participants and rental groups. And then finally, we developed the 23-24 annual budget. As you'll recall, in 2021 and 2022, we were kind of piecing things together. And to move forward with that biannual budget was a very significant step for our division. And then we support the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Arts Council. That's a key area of our administrative functional area. And just to remind the commission, because you had a number of meetings in 2022, we were able to recommend the Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan to City Council, 30% design to City Council for the Luther Burbank docks, worked on the bike skills area and recommended a location to City Council for that, developed the Aubrey Davis Trail Safety Project or Safety Project 30% design, which was finalized in 2023 and is moving forward next week to the City Council. And then we also cut the ribbon on the Mercerdale Inclusive Playground, which the commission, as you'll recall, played a very important role in providing that forum for community input for that project. Additionally, with the Arts Council, we had some really key outcomes, creating special event committee, public art committee, Mercer Island Arts Summit Committee, as well as providing various input on policy and public art work, and hosted that art summit, which brought together different community members and stakeholders to provide input on the arts opportunities and programming that can be offered either through the city or in partnership. And a big step for the Arts Council for us as staff was providing us with the 2023-2024 arts and culture priorities, which helped to guide the integration of arts and culture work within our special events, within our programming that we offer. And then I highlight this picture of Ann Ritze here on the side from MyVol. That's the partnerships we're talking about. And you're going to hear me say it over and over, partnerships, but they really are the cornerstone of the services we're able to offer. And we have a outstanding community and outstanding partners that step up to help us in that service delivery. So moving forward, I will pass it on to Alex Lee, and Alex is our recreation facility supervisor. So Alex, if you're available, I will have you come on and talk about the great things the community center did last year.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. My apologies. My computer decided not to work. So I'm sharing a computer with Raven, thankfully. So in 2022, as Ryan mentioned, the org chart is a little bit different than what we see in 2023. But last year, my position supervised a recreation specialist out of the community center here. We also oversaw a recreation coordinator that handled the outdoor facility rentals. And then we had recreation assistants and casual labor here at the community center as well that helped with anything from reservations, rentals, drop-in sports, and everything that kind of happens here in the community center. So what we did, so we restored community center access and services back to pre-pandemic levels. And so we were able to take in 1,041 bookings totaling 3,379 total hours, which is, I think, fantastic considering the first quarter we really just were accepting reservations and bookings, and we were able to do that for the rest of the year. We had 15,000 plus participants for drop-in sports, which again is a fantastic number. I think it shows that the community was really longing to have access back to the community center. And then we had 2,034 visitors to our fitness center, and that was with being closed for 6 months due to some remodeling that had to be done, I think, to the floor and to multiple areas in the fitness room. But to have 2,000 people visit in the first part of the year, I think is fantastic. And again, I think it shows that opening up that access to the community center was definitely a want of our community. And like I said, we began accepting reservations and rentals. We were able to provide availability for up to 92 hours a week, which was fantastic, again, to be able to offer a wide range of hours and opportunities for people to rent and reserve the facility here. We also got back to offering the passive access to the game room, the landing, the lobby. The art gallery was restored again as well in the building, with the expansion of the gallery to City Hall as well. And then we, as always, provided a cooling and a warming center if that was needed based off the weather. And then we were always here and prepared to be an emergency shelter should that be the case on the island. Just have some pictures of some great events that happened last year in the facility. We had, we were able to offer, like I said, the rentals back. The Mercer room rentals were a big part of what we were doing. We were able to offer indoor playground, which is the bottom left picture there. And then the art gallery again came back, and we were able to offer those receptions and just bring people back into the community center and really focus on getting people back active and being a part of our community. Also under the recreation facility supervisor position last year was the outdoor facility rentals. So park rentals for athletic fields, picnic areas, and private special events and usage increased in 2022. We added the Dean's Children's Picnic Shelter as a rentable space and increased to 142 picnic bookings. We had 2,987 park field rentals, which totaled 9,803 hours. And then we had 39 special event permits, private special event permits. So again, I think restoring full pre-pandemic levels, I think brought a lot of use back to our spaces. in the recreation division.
Thank you, Alex. I will just add, and the commission is, I believe, very aware of this. Hiring casual labor has been extremely challenging, or was extremely challenging in 2022. That created some challenges in our expansion because we had individuals, even including myself, working the front desk to meet some of those community center needs. That slowed us down, and I want to just give a tremendous amount of credit to our team at the community center for their patience, their flexibility, and their willingness to step up consistently. I mean, we have a number of staff members that stepped up to work extra hours. When we say extra hours, we're talking not working till 7 o'clock. We're talking about closing down a rental at 1 a.m. And then coming back and opening up the facility at 9 a.m. the following day. So I'm extremely proud of the work this team did at the community center. And I'm very, very excited to see the casual labor hires we've made over the last couple of months. They're going to reduce some of that burden and allow us that further expansion of meeting community needs and access to the facilities. So with that, thank you, Alex. And I will introduce Katie Herzog, our recreation supervisor.
Thank you. So as you can see, last year, my title was Recreation Coordinator, and I oversaw events and community partnerships and had a recreation specialist that worked alongside me for programs and events. So we brought back our citywide events in 2022, which some hadn't occurred since 2018. So we were very excited to be able to bring these back to our community. Our biggest event, of course, you guys know, is Summer Celebration. We brought it back on maybe a smaller scale than what we had seen in the past, but had a terrific turnout, really excited community members, and we got to bring back those big key elements like the fireworks show, the live entertainment, community booths all through the streets, and we're certainly excited to be enhancing that event for this year. We had 5 outdoor concerts at our mostly Music in the Park concert series at Mercerdale on Thursday evenings. Shakespeare in the Park returned to Luther Burbank, where they did over 19 shows there. We had a senior lunch, which I think was mentioned earlier tonight, Rocktober. We had Elvis in the building. We had help with the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Business District to offer the trick-or-treating in Town Center. And for the first time, the city hosted the Pumpkin Walk. That was previously a different organization, but we got to bring it back and host it at Mercerdale Park. Illuminate MI expanded. We had our tree lighting. We partnered with the local fire union to bring back the Firehouse Munch as part of that event. And the Argosy ship came to Luther Burbank Beach. So along with the events that we coordinated, we also partnered with a variety of organizations to be able to put on even more events for the community. The annual MIPA Circus was held at the community center, and they had, I think, record-breaking numbers for the event. We hosted Juneteenth and Pride in the Park. Like I mentioned, the Firehouse Munch. We had a menorah lighting and a Girl Scouts toy drive. Both of those last events part of Illuminate MI. We partnered with 10 different organizations to have a variety of summer camps. We had over 1,300 registrations for the summer. This is a repeat from Alex's slide about those private parties or private events that we permitted in the park, but we kind of shared among the 2 pillars of staff to bring those into the park, and of course worked very closely with our parks maintenance team. And then we adopted the new special event sponsorship program, and we were able to sponsor another 9 events through that process. And here is a brief snapshot of some of those events. Summer Celebration to Mostly Music to Shakespeare in the Park. We had just record-breaking numbers at all of the events, and we're very excited to do it again this year.
Thank you, Katie. So I'll take it from here and move us into 2023. 2022 was a great stepping stone to where we are today. And this year is off to a really great start. We've filled all of our full-time positions, which was a challenge last year, having a few vacancies. We have new casual labor, as I mentioned, that's come on board and will be available through the summer. One of the challenges I'll say that I'm maybe a little bit concerned about is being able to retain that casual labor and get those additional staff members in as we look to go to more of a year-round staffing model for the community center specifically, as well as our special events. We're on pace right now for rentals and drop-ins to exceed 2019 outcomes. That is amazing. I mean, that's the best way to put it is that is amazing. The volume that we are currently doing at the community center on a daily basis is extremely impressive and a real asset to the community. Obviously that generates revenues, but when you're seeing the participation numbers in the drop-in programs, which are predominantly your senior age population, that's an amazing outcome. And that shows the importance of this facility and the usage that's associated. Summer celebration, we actually had a meeting earlier today. We're in the planning stages for that and putting the final touches on our summer events and even looking toward Illuminate MI toward the end of this year. Summer camps are beginning to fill. We have a number of senior age opportunities that have come forward this year in just a short period, being the Osher Lifelong Learning Program, Community Coffee Hour, the senior lunches, and the senior golf program as well. And our community center is continuing to demonstrate its flexibility. As City Manager Bond mentioned earlier, we're housing the police department right now, which frankly, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to have those differing staff members in the facility engaging with the community in an atmosphere they're probably not quite as used to. As some of you who have come by the community center, it can be maybe a bit more loud than they're used to at City Hall. And those are good things. It's a really good opportunity for us to continue to engage. So we're looking forward to wrapping up 2023 or moving through the second half of the year in that focused approach of constantly improving. We're going to continue to engage our partners to exceed expectations. And that was sort of our mantra that we started at the beginning of 2023. And we're going to really focus on providing that to the community. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen. And if anyone has any questions, we are happy to answer.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I just had a comment about summer celebration. The Touch-a-Truck was so popular. The lineups for those, that is so cool. And it wasn't just little kids either. Commissioner Cohen. You're on mute.
Sorry, Don Cohen. I'm sure everybody feels this way, but that is a tremendous record of accomplishment over a very difficult time period, and staff and council, of course, deserve great accolades for that. And also the organization of the report and the materials were quite illuminating, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. And I will kick it right back to the Parks Commission. Let's go back to 2021 and all of those meetings we had to sit through to get us on the recreation reset, which I believe is really paying off. So thank you to you guys as well.
Yep. Pays to have a plan and then stick to the plan. Okay, so we're on to the fifth item of business, which is the King County Library System presentation recap. And we're welcoming back Recreation Manager Ryan Daly.
Gosh, this is feeling good to keep coming back. But I'm actually going to pass this one back to Chair McCarthy and Vice Chair Struck. Following the meeting at following the May meeting where we received the report from KCLS, Chair McCarthy and Vice Chair Struck reached out to me asking to add an agenda item to kind of give us a wrap up or a continued conversation regarding KCLS and potential next steps. I'll remind the commission that right now, the focus or what the commission's role is to provide a forum to the community to express their feelings and maybe their wants or needs toward what KCLS delivers and be able to provide that forum. I will say right now, staff does not have the ability to take on any sort of evaluative process around KCLS and what their service offerings are. We are in a process of engaging with their leadership to further highlight, I should say, the offerings that they have. I think that's a partnership that our recreation division and the KCLS Mercer Island branch really need to look to expand. It was something we were working on in 2019 to highlight the different opportunities, as well as provide some opportunities for shared facility space. So those are things that we're going to look toward later on this year to further enhance. But just wanted to provide that bit of information before I handed it back to the chair and vice chair.
Thank you. I'm going to ping pong it back to Vice Chair Struck to start us off.
Thank you, Chair Peter Struck. Yeah, well, just a couple of thoughts. First, I thought that the meeting last month compared to the one a year ago was much better. I thought the information that the KCLS provided was much better. I just think that I came away with a much better impression of KCLS and what they can do for us. When Ryan spoke about kind of, again, resource constraints and things like that, I think I wholeheartedly hear them. Just a couple of thoughts, and I think Ryan almost indicated them. One would be to, try to use the city's kind of communication channels to kind of highlight various either Mercer Island-based KCLS activities and or system-wide that would be of interest to our residents. Because I think, many times there's a lot of people that see, a lot of residents that see the City of Mercer Island communications, but not necessarily KCLS things. And then secondly, and this might be something down the road, but I know that KCLS has a very robust database and data management system. And it would be interesting to see, I think, kind of where the Mercer Island Library stacks up kind of as best in class in metrics and maybe areas where there's needs for improvement. And then we could strategize and see, other ways to kind of improve that so that the, community gets more kind of bang for their buck, if you will, from that resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Stark. Does anybody else have any comments that they want to add about what we learned at the meeting last week at all from the KCLS people? Ryan Daly.
I would like to follow up just briefly. I've been very happy with the communication I've received from my counterpart there. And that being their willingness and frankly want to come and provide input to or I should say provide information to the Parks and Recreation Commission. That's something they are very forthcoming with, and I think that's an opportunity for us. I will say on my side and to Commissioner Struck's thoughts, our ability to highlight the other things that are happening, whether it be just KCLS or other organizations within maybe the Mercer Island boundaries, is really important. And I think there's an opportunity for us to use our division reports, our department reports, our city managers reports, a number of different communication methods to highlight all of the opportunities. I mean, we've talked a lot about partnerships. I think I'm receiving that. I'm hearing it from you guys that's a very important aspect that we continue to push and utilize our platform as the City of Mercer Island to be able to help inform on those opportunities.
Thank you. All right, if nobody else has any other comments about that, we're going to go to the sixth item of business, which is the 2023 planning schedule update. And we're going back to the Ryan Daly show.
Thank you. I don't have any updates on the planning schedule. We do have a July meeting coming forth that will, we have 2 terms that are expiring, Commissioner Hay and Commissioner Cohen. So we will know what the appointments shake out on Tuesday. And then we will need to elect new chair and vice chair at that July meeting. Beyond that, we will be filling in some of those fall calendar dates with likely some project information, as well as some policy review that will be coming forward in the likes of the naming policy that we discussed earlier tonight. So thank you, Chair McCarthy.
Thank you. All right, our 7th item of business is commissioner reports or work plan updates or anything that anybody wants to report. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about? Commissioner Westberg.
I would just like to thank Chair McCarthy for 2 years as chair and keeping us on track and going and through some pretty tough and complicated issues. So thank you for that, for providing that guidance and leadership to this group.
Thank you. Commissioner Burstein.
First, I'll second that thought. Thank you for all the leadership and management of this group. But I also wanted to comment, having just returned from overseas, walking through Pioneer Park today, mid-morning, just the serenity, the lushness of late spring, the symphony of birds chirping. It was so great to be back, and we're so lucky to live here.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Hay.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that this week I took my first visit to the Pea Patch, and it's really beautiful up there. So if anybody hasn't been up there yet, I would encourage you to check it out. The gardens up there are very peaceful, very well maintained, and there were a few people working in their gardens when I was up there. It's a really nice space. So I would encourage anybody to go up and check it out up in Luther Burbank Park.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? All right, I am seeing no other comments. So I'm going to say that the next regular Parks and Recreation Commission meeting is July 6th, 2023 at 5 p.m. The time now is 6:47 and the meeting is adjourned. However, as a reminder to commissioners, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.